local studio, we have columnist Bob Whitcomb come in to talk about everything
Hello, Kate. How are
Colin
you?
related. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see
Do we
you.
need to bring the table a
Let
little?
me fix my wig here.
I'm going to bring a little table closer if we need to put the coffee down. Thanks for coming in. You know, we always usually talk about kind of last week's column, the coming up column, but as we speak here, we're finding out, you know, we talk about national politics. President Trump looking to pull the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord.
We're still waiting, right?
We're still waiting, but there seems to be indications. CNN was reporting that it was in fact taking place. He was supposedly making the comments this afternoon. There seems to be some backlash already, of course, about this. It seems, you know, he kind of ran on this platform saying that something like that's a job killer.
Well, he was, remember, he won. He won by, of all the potential voters in the country, he won with about 17% of the vote. He got what the plurality he got in the electoral college. Of course, that was not reflected in the popular vote, which was about 3 million less than. So anyway, there was a large number of people in key states, a lot of with oil, fossil fuel connections. Pennsylvania, obviously, Texas and so on, with a lot of interest in the fossil fuel business, including Michigan, which he won, because of the car business. The problem with this is if he does pull out, we will not be at the table. We'll be about the only country in the world not at the table. So our bargaining power and this and related international issues would be about zero or very little. The other problem with this, if he does pull out, or if he does put a lot of limitations on it, is it's gonna hurt us economically, because the growth is, whatever the United States does, the growth is gonna be in renewables. Coal, oil, gas. Okay, gas will be a big thing for a long time. Oil, less and less. Coal, less and less. Renewable energy in a lot of places is now cheaper than fossil fuel energy, and it doesn't pollute the air. And I remember I'm making the distinction between polluting the air and the carbon dioxide issue, global warming, which is related but not the same thing. So I think economically it's a huge mistake. It'll get us out a lot of the renewable energy industries that have been thriving, that employ a lot of people. You know, it's very foolish, but it will probably please his base. And over and over again, we've seen his primary interest is pleasing his base. If he does decide, when we get off the air, the building is blown up and all that stuff, that he decided to stick with it, it'll probably be because of the persuasiveness of Rex Tillerson, of all things, the Secretary of State and former head of Exxon, who likes this deal, likes the global arrangement, wants us to be in the global deal, and Trump's daughter Ivanka, who thinks it's a good thing, and so does Kushner, who seems to be sort of the assistant president. So,
he does, but he's also
nice suits too. Very nice. It's very
nice
expensive.
Suits, but very front and center with the whole Russian investigation. You know, it's interesting the level. I mean, clearly
the love is amazing. And I will say what I've said before. It's because of huge loans and other assistance from Russian investors close to Putin. That's what's behind all this.
What do you think of that kind of Hillary still being out there, still talking about?
I wish she'd shut up for a while. I wish she'd go away. It's probably for the country, probably too bad she lost, but get over it. She should not run again. Too many people didn't like her. I know she got more votes than Trump. She still didn't get a majority. And people are just tired of the Clintons. I mean, I know as an old person, I should skulk away in the shadow.
But you're not skulking away. You're here in the studio. Well, you write for us every week.
She's got to learn how to move on. MoveOn.org or whatever it's called. Well, and speaking to this crowd of people that people in the rest of the country think of as flaming elitist at Wellesley College. Also famous is the alma mater of Madam Chiang Kai-shek, by the way. Very important. It's just she's got to stop.
Apparently she took a dig.
Take up croquet.
She took a dig at the
Become
DNC.
a drug addict.
Do anything. But did you see where the DNC staff were fired back at her when she took? So so she's not going softly into the night, but neither are the folks that she's pointing fingers at.
I always thought it was even more important than when you start a job to decide when to leave.
That is true.
Okay? And I think the country needs a rest from this thing, from the Clintons, from the Bushes too. I don't want to see any more of them for a while. Enough. I'm exhausted.
But what's your thoughts on Joe Biden?
Biden is too old. Big mistake.
Do you think
with
there's
few
sort of
exceptions? You get to 70 and over, it is, no matter how healthy you think, you're still much, much closer to a stroke
Yes.
or some kind of cancer or heart attack than you were before 70. There's some marvelous exceptions. Churchill wasn't one of them. He was too old when he came back into office in the early 50s. Konrad Adenauer, probably nobody, Americans, he was the Chancellor of Germany in the 50s. They called him Der Alt, the old man. He was brilliant. He was great. He went on till he's about 88. That this is, or Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, this is very, very unusual.
But do you
Usually
think-
it doesn't work. You get sick.
Well, yes, he's
Yeah.
of an advanced age, but do you think there's just a sense
Yeah.
in the Democratic Party of trying to just find that, again, savior,
Yeah.
a little nostalgia mixed with,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, he's sort of a New Deal Democrat. He's,
the sort of, you know,
Biden,
would things have been
Truman.
different if we had,
Yeah,
you know,
and he
if
probably
Joe had
would have
run?
won. He probably would have won. He's very charming, and you know, a lot of people just not feel Hillary is charming. I don't know if it's sexism or not. There's something about her manner and her kind of didactic quality, sort of a schoolmarm. Occasionally her voice would sound like that of Margaret Hamilton in The Wizard of Oz, you know, and I would just irritate people.
Well, she continues to be on the press circuit. You know, we
Yeah.
continue to see
I
Chelsea.
admire her courage. I
Yeah.
admire her courage and her will, but you've got to know when to shift gears. Yeah.
Indeed, and
Now, Chelsea is all in this sort of Upper East Side New York rich people stuff.
do you think
Enough
we'll
of
see?
that.
Do you think we'll see political aspirations out of her?
No, I don't. I don't. I do think there'll be people who come out of nowhere. I think you and I have talked about some of these. John Hickenlooper with the Democrats, governor of Colorado, very able. Who's the other guy? Casper is his name? The friendly ghost? No. The Delaware governor, very well thought of. Neither of them has made any announcements, but they're both plausible. It should be somebody who's run something, though. Okay, it's an executive job, believe it or not.
Well, it's interesting
Yeah.
as we keep
Yeah.
talking about we're in cycle for 18 here, but here we are. It's June of
I
17.
know it's exhausting. I know,
But
I
you know, it's at the congressional level certainly, but very little heard of on both the gubernatorial and mayoral front
Yeah.
here. I mean, granted,
Yeah,
we have
we're-
two.
yeah, no one-
we have two incumbents. I
Yeah,
mean, that is
right.
that is a fact.
Right, of,
But are
how
you
would I put
surprised
it?
you-
Marginal popularity, maybe? Tenuous popularity?
Of tenuous
Well,
popularity.
right, yeah, it's tough being mayor of a city. I don't know who's going to run against Alorza. He's a nice man, but he has no real strong base. Obviously, originally had Hispanics and the people didn't like Buddy Cianci because Buddy Cianci was a sociopath. So you had this kind of weird, alliance. It's almost as weird as the alliance that originally brought in Buddy Cianci, which was Federal Hill and the rich and semi-rich folks over on the east side, the Jewish aristocracy and the remaining Yankees. Of course, that alliance blew apart.
The alliance is blown
Yeah.
apart, but
No, I don't know who's going to run for mayor. I
Well,
don't know. You? I don't know.
We'll
Do it.
stand right here in the Go Local
My
studio.
dog Webster is considering he's got a pack already, so to speak.
you heard it here first,
Yeah,
Bob Whitcomb's
right,
dog.
right.
So what can we expect from you from a column this coming weekend, Bob?
Well, I think what we're going to talk about, the car tax thing. I think probably that's not a good thing to do, because while the car tax is very, very irritating, giving up that revenue would mean giving up other things like fixing the roads that we're looking at, improving education. I'd rather have the money go some other place. By the way, one interesting thing, kind of in connection with that, I think fewer and fewer people are going to be owning cars anyway. Older population, a lot of the younger people don't want to buy them, and a lot of people use these ride-hailing.
Yes.
You see. So, I know the revenue projections that are becoming increasingly tenuous. So it's tenuous as the revenue projections in the Trump budget, which have no connection to reality. There's double counting in it. So I don't think, I'd rather they didn't do that. I don't want them to raise taxes, but just leave that.
Well,
And
don't you
use the
think-
money better. Use the money better.
It's clearly sort of the pet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Goal of the
Everybody
speaker.
hates it. Everybody
of the
hates
speaker
it.
of this
I don't
session
like
to
it
do
either.
so.
I don't like writing that check.
So but it's interesting that we see these things. I mean, they've got just days left in the General
Yeah,
Assembly,
yeah.
but it's his thing. It's Matty Yellow's thing. I mean, I expect it will go through.
I would think so.
But
I think
speaking
so.
of things that won't go through, we keep going back to the POSOX.
Yeah, this is, it's just, my view, it's a big enough issue, they probably should have a short special session about it in the fall, look at it. The economics of it still, I don't know. The economics of Major League Baseball. You know, what's often cited is Camden Yards in Baltimore, the Orioles. It's actually technically Orioles Field, but everybody, beautiful place and all that.
Lucchino project.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Larry Lucchino. He's got a good aesthetic. I think he did a big thing out in San Diego too. Okay, it's neat. It's great to go Camden Yards, but is Baltimore better? Do you really, evening strolls in Baltimore? I don't know. What's that? The Wire? What was the name of that TV
The
show?
Wire was in Baltimore.
It still seems to be imploding. I mean, not all of it. There's some nice areas around Johns Hopkins, even though people get.
Well, speaking
bucked
of
over
which,
there,
people
so.
have pointed out to us sort of the tenuous financial situation in Hartford, Connecticut currently, and the stadium has really helped that move forward.
It's been catastrophic. They spent, $65-70 million on it. It's just a fiasco. They should have, I don't know what, like no taxes for business might have helped.
Well, we'll see what happens with
No,
the Paw Sox. We had Bob Billington in yesterday from the Blackstone
Of course,
Valley
he would love it, of course.
Tourism
yeah,
Council, but he
yeah.
made the astute point, at any time, did all of the leaders sit around the table? No, there were meetings here, meetings there. He
And
said,
then make separate announcements.
Yep.
Right.
you
Nobody
hear one
together.
thing from the governor, then the Senate
That's
president
right.
says DOA.
And then the Senate president would say something in Serbo-Croatian. What's going on here?
Another country heard
So,
from.
yeah. I like the Paw Sox people. I know them. In fact, I was up there last weekend with Dr. Steinberg, having a nice chat with him. And I think they're earnest people. I just don't think they've sold the economics of this yet.
Will be interesting to see,
And
'cause as we saw.
where else? Oh, violence. I love it. Now you're talking.
Start
Where else
smart.
would they go? The trouble is in New England. Where else? They really want to go to Worcester? I don't think so. They can't go to Hartford, which is like Dresden after the firebombing. Bridgeport? I don't know.
Bridgeport.
Manchester, New Hampshire?
Talked about.
The options are pretty thin.
Well, I guess Mayor Grabian said that
Yeah.
they would stay kind of wedded to Pawtucket until
Yeah,
July.
yeah.
But, when they say that, I think it's a little disingenuous. Have they not had conversations with other areas and other folks?
Yeah, if true.
If
We don't
true.
know.
Yeah.
I mean,
They
they were
spoke
talking, there were conversations going on with everybody was at the table. I don't know. But at this point, croquet looks more promising.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Why don't we get
Yeah.
Kraft? Bring the revolution down here in
Absolutely,
Providence.
absolutely.
Bob Kraft.
Yeah.
Think about it.
You hear that? You hear that?
We know you're watching.
We've got your home number.
We know you're watching. Well, Bob, as we wrap up here, it is this evening, the Providence Committee on Foreign Relations, and that's actually who we have on next is
That's
Dr.
great.
Terrence
Yeah.
Rory.
You gave me the idea.
Yes, we've spoken
Yeah.
with him. So
I saw the movie too.
You saw the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah. The
What are you-
subtitles were confusing.
What are you looking to hear from Dr. Rorig? Now, this is, again, a professor from the Naval War College that we've talked with, who is an expert on the Korean Peninsula. So what are you looking to hear this evening?
Well, I want to see how soon he thinks they could deliver missiles to the United States, to U.S. territory. I want to see that. I want some sense of that. I'd love to hear what he thinks about what the current relations are between China, which is the North Korean patron, and the North Koreans. The Chinese are trying to have it both ways. North Korea is an ally of China, and they want that buffer. The question is, to what extent are they willing to continue to support North Korea as they develop this big nuclear program?
Well, we shall
That's
see.
the central issue, is the relationship with China. The only people the North Korean, or the regime is afraid of, I believe, are the Chinese.
Well, we'll see what happens. Again, Dr. Rorig will be there tonight, so I'll let you go to get ready,
Okay.
and I'll bring Dr. Rorig in.
Ciao.
Thank you very
See
much.
later,
Would you like
Kate.
your coffee?
Sure, why not? It's not coffee.
Oh, it's not coffee. Okay.